Let us continue with college football. Perhaps a little more serious of a college football conversation. With College Football News' emperor, the czar, the founder of collegefootballnews.com. It's Pete Fiutak. How you doing, Peter?
You're hoping from serious for me at this point? I'm still interested. Oompa Iowa, Florida, or Island, Florida. I want to go where that is. That sounds like a fun gig, laying on the beach, listening to you guys. That seems like a pretty good day.
Listen, Pete, Okaloosa Island in the Panhandle.
In the Panhandle.
Oh, okay.
Okay. In the Panhandle.
Yeah, by near Pensacola.
Oh, okay. There you go. Okaloosa.
It's not really Florida. It's just kind of Florida.
Wow.
That's right. You're in the South now. You've gone far enough north to be in the South.
All right, Pete.
So you're still alive. Yeah.
You know where we're starting? Oklahoma, Texas. We were speculating the previous segment which way you'd go on this. Texas favored by 6.5 after their drubbing of Oklahoma last year, but this ain't that Oklahoma team. What do you got?
I like Oklahoma. I only because it's Texas and it's going to blow it at some point, and this rivalry doesn't normally take on the normal things that you'd like to think. Like you say, okay, well, this team can do this. This team. No. It's really, really about the momentum of the game. And in this game, it defies a lot of logic and reason. And as good as Texas is, I do think this is one of those moments where as long as Dylan Gabriel is healthy at quarterback for Oklahoma, this is a different team, sharper offense, stronger defense. And I do think Oklahoma, giving me points, I'll take that. And I kind of like the over on this, too, because I do think this will be a back-and-forth fight.
Alabama at A&M. I can't tell you the number of people who texted me during Saturday and were like, oh, what's Alabama's price to win it all again? So there was a little more of a boomerang effect on Alabama here recently. What do you think about this ball game? What do you think about Alabama's long-term prospects?
Don't go there yet. Well, but it's not just that Alabama is okay and they looked pretty good. It's that the rest of the SEC West looks like it's okay, good. I mean, the SEC is just sort of blah this year. So in that case, with LSU going down, and this is it. This is if it's not going to be Texas A&M, who's going to get Alabama going forward in this, at least in the West. But they can only lose one more game, and this might be it. I mean, Texas A&M has been really, really sharp. I always have a hard time picking against Alabama in any stretch, but I kind of think at home, this is one of those games where Texas A&M pulls this off and makes a humongous statement in the Jimbo Fisher era.
Wow. You're speaking of the SEC. You were saying it's kind of blah, by the way. You didn't say blah. I said blah. How bad was LSU's? How bad is LSU's defense? My God.
I don't get them. You know what? And this week they could probably come out and rock. I mean, it's been such a flaky team. But they've done that over the last few years. Every once in a while, they get into those games where no one can tackle, and that was definitely that Ole Miss game. But I thought that that was going to be the jumping-off point for LSU, where the Arkansas game showed just how good they could be. All they needed was one stop, and that 2.5 was going to be covered. But I loved LSU last week, and obviously they couldn't come through.
What are your favorite bets this weekend?
Pac-12 home teams. I mean, it's just I think it's going to be one of those seasons when the team that gets the home date is going to end up being just a little bit stronger. And I have a hard time going with Arizona State against Colorado, so that one I'm a little bit leery about. But UCLA, only 3.5 against Washington State, and I know a lot of people who are liking Wazoo early on because they really are just that good. But I do think that just the home field in this conference and a week-to-week basis is going to matter. Cal getting almost 10 points against Oregon State, I think is a much better Bears team that's getting credit for. Again, the road aspect of this. And as much as USC is struggling to hang on for dear life late, at least against Colorado, you saw what happened when they got up 41-14 and just how strong they were. Arizona is good. I think USC is going to have to pull away late to do it. But at least 3 of these 4 Pac-12 games, I like the home side. Colorado, Arizona State, Colorado this year, that's a little iffy. That just depends on what you feel like doing that particular moment.
But speaking of bad defenses, like you saw the USC defense, and I get it, they were way up. But still, like you can't consider them a national title contender now after seeing that, can you?
Well, compared to what is the problem right now? And like, who's looked great? I mean, we still don't quite have a handle on Penn State yet, and Oklahoma is about to get tested. But is Georgia look like a world beater? Not yet, even though everyone has to remember that last year in Week 5 they should have lost to Missouri. and Georgia turned out to be all right. Has Ohio State looked like an absolute killer yet? Not really. Texas is about to be challenged. Florida State had to start against Boston College. So, the USC defense hasn't been anything special, but it's just a smidge better than it was last year, and that might be just good enough to get through some of these games. But they're going to still have to deal with Washington, still have to deal with Oregon. They still got all those nasty games ahead. So just get to the college football playoff first, and let's see what happens from there.
All right, let's talk about this Ohio State-Maryland game. On the heels of Ohio State getting the late win against Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame getting the late win and cover against Duke. What a brutal.
That was amazing.
Brutal.
That was a beautiful thing for some.
Of course you love it. It's just, that's not a Power 5 thing, but that's just a traditional powerhouse thing for Pete. He's just a...
No, in that case, I was at Duke all year. I love Duke. I just had Notre Dame covering in that one. But yes, anyway, yes.
They did in the end. So I guess I want to say, where do you stand on Notre Dame? But also with Ohio State then. Maryland's undefeated. They're 5-0. They're 19.5-point dogs. I might be asking the wrong person here, but do you think Maryland, forget the cover, do you think they can actually give this a run?
Absolutely. And I want nothing to do with this game because you could do any outcome, and I would not be shocked in this because Maryland is just that good. They're physical this year. This is not just the kind of, tippy-tappy offensive, wing it around and hope for the best out of the Terps from past years. They're hitting people. They have a strong defensive front. The running game's been pretty good. And we don't know what we're getting with Ohio State. I mean, they can't bust out of this funk and play up to their talent level. Talent-wise, it's Georgia and it's maybe Alabama and it's Ohio State. They're the best teams in college football. They're just not quite playing like it, and Ohio State certainly isn't like that. So, again, I kind of like nothing about this game, but if I have to, I'm going Maryland with the points.
Maryland with the points, yeah. I think that's probably true. What about Georgia? What about the fact that, Bowers could just run unimpeded all down the field last week? Can we put a man on him, 2 men on him maybe?
He's pretty impressive, and next year's draft is going to be loaded with amazing quarterbacks. There are at least 10 quarterbacks which you could say, yeah, that guy could probably go in the first round. Bowers is the one who's probably going to mess that up, at least up top.
Give me a Bowers over under draft slot right now. If I said 6.5,
4.5, yeah, maybe under, but it doesn't really work. Look at how you're not exactly fitting Kyle Pitts for a Hall of Fame jacket yet. So tight ends going that early doesn't really happen. But Brock Bowers certainly fits. He's not the blocker that NFL teams like, but certainly as a receiver, he certainly looks a little Kelsey-like.
Little Kelsey-like. Yeah, the thing is, you know that they go quarterback crazy, and then obviously there's other players that are at the top.
Well, here's the funky part about this real quick is there's not that many jobs out there. Look at the teams that stink, and you only have 4 or 5 teams that are going to really want quarterbacks this year, and there's 10 of them, and God help if the Bears are number 1 again. What do they do? But it's going to be an interesting draft. But again, the quarterbacks this year, this is a phenomenal draft for them. At Bowers, he is a top 5 level pick.
Yeah, problem is, though, it's like Caleb Williams if he comes out, right? Drake May, Marvin Harrison Jr., and certainly Fashanu from Penn State everybody thinks they're top 5. So at that point, Bowers can't be too high as a result of that, right? He's probably maybe top 10 play.
Top 10.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Pete, appreciate it. Enjoy the college football weekend. Pete Fiutak, everybody. At Pete Fiutak, Fiutak on Twitter.